Hi, this is Allison Corbin with Big Sky Economic Development, joined by Karen Miller, also with Big Sky. And we're here today to give you an economic impact update. We have updated numbers from a large scale view. We have survey data that we've received from businesses throughout Yellowstone County, and then Karen will cover unemployment information and how we're now trending in that area. So to start with, let's get those slides up. Thanks, Karen. We'll touch on a little bit of what we talked about last time, a couple weeks ago when we were on here. So the important considerations that we have when we are looking at this COVID, this disruption in our economy is really trying to pace what kind of disruption this will be. And like I touched on before, is this going to be like a recession, or is this going to be more of a disaster, more of like a sudden hit and we'll recover suddenly, or is this going to be more like a disaster or like a recession where this will be something that will trigger a long-term impact to our economies? And so we are looking at data and benchmarking different data points to try and keep track of where we are and where we're headed. Some of those data points that we will be working to put together in partnership with the City of Billings will be taking normal benchmarking data points like business permits and building permits and those types of things, just to keep track of where we were and where things go. So we'll be kind of bringing that all together in one place in the next couple weeks. The second thing that we are looking at is the large scale economic information that we have from national sources. And so that's what I'm gonna touch on that today. And then the third thing that we're looking at when we're trying to benchmark data is business surveys. So the primary source data that we have, we did a business survey in Yellowstone County that was just the beginning of this week. And so we've got some important feedback from that survey that I'll be touching on today. And then we will be putting out a more comprehensive look at that data information early next week. So as we've touched on before, policy and duration duration is going to be a big player in this. And as we know, Montana is to open up, at least to some degree now. So we'll be definitely under a microscope from a national perspective of how this starts the economy and how things get going. And of course, policy is going to be critical too. We're in phase 1 of opening up in our economy, and we have no timeline of when phase 2 starts. And so it'll be really interesting to see what happens moving forward. So we'll start with that really overall, like big view of what is the how we are forecasting economic impact to our community. So I'll touch a little bit on the trends or the methodology that we're using. I talked about it last time as well, but we are using Schmer Analytics. They're an analytics group that does a lot of economic data work. And what they've put together is a vulnerability index. And so this, again, we touched on last time, is the vulnerability index. It shows Yellowstone County being in the top of vulnerability. And this is based on the industries that play a large role in our community. And so you can see us right there. So when they talk about vulnerability and how they're ranking these, they're doing it by these industries. So these are the top 10 most vulnerable industries. And on the side, you can see what they anticipate being the job loss by industry based on what they're seeing nationally and what they forecast. And so what I've done a little bit later is I've taken these percentages and I've taken it on the low side. So they say at least 60% or greater in accommodation and food services. I've taken 60%. Likewise, with the other ranges, I've taken the lowest percent impact because I want us to be looking at it from, if this is the least bad all the way up, but I'm taking it from the most conservative. Also because I feel like Montana was less impacted in some ways just because of the overall health impact, and also just the duration is going to be different than major metros. So that's kind of the thought process we went through, but we'll go through that and those numbers in a little bit. So it's just a reminder, this vulnerability impact index was applied to all of the counties in the United States. And of all of the counties in the United States, we rank 322nd. So we are sitting right at 10%, the 10% most impacted and most vulnerable counties in the nation. And that's really speaking to us being a regional hub. So we have a lot of services and things that people come to us for regionally. And that's a lot of why we're having that rating, in addition to a little bit of the tourism. And you can see Bozeman's exceeding us in really that's probably driven by tourism, because tourism will be so significantly disrupted because of this incident. So I've jumped into the data, and there's really no good place for cameras to be right now. But so this is what I've done is I've taken the top 10 most impacted industries, and I've applied to them those percentages that you saw just a moment ago. And what I've done, this is all Q4 of 2019 data as far as employment and wages, because that's the most current that we have. So pretty real time. So end of December, this is the employment and wages by these industries. So you can see that in the column on the far side, on the left side. And so that just gives you an indication of how big those industries are in our community. And accommodation and food services is right up there. It was one of our top industries. Arts, entertainment, recreation are lower. But the color differentiation you see is the orangey color are industries that are going to be impacted by about a 60% job loss. So that's what's figured in this chart. The blue ones are looking at a 10% job loss, so it's less dramatic. But what you can see, the bottom line is that we have about a 10,620 job loss in our community, which represents about 12% of employment in Yellowstone County. So it's going to be a pretty significant impact to employment and in those industries. And so what Karen and I look at this, and then we start thinking about how do you transfer these folks to industries that they have transferable skills to, so that we still keep people employed. But it's interesting that this number, you'll notice, is right around 10,500. Karen's unemployment number is going to be in that ballpark as we speak today. So that's a quick look at kind of the high-level economic impact to our community, what we forecast might happen. Of course, that 10,600 could be much worse if we stay in phase 1 for a lot longer, or we are in phase 1 and have to step back. So those are all things to keep in mind and keep track of. So these are some of the survey results. We deployed this survey to Yellowstone County businesses on Monday of this week. And we received 606 survey results, or at least data set. The survey is still open, but I think we've got a really strong, statistically significant sampling. If you go by the number of establishments in our community, we have these survey results provide a 95% confidence level, which is really good when it comes to statistics. So you can say with 95% confidence that these results are reflective of the business community in Yellowstone County. So that was a great response rate, and we were really pleased with that. So we'll jump into some of those numbers. As you can expect, we asked folks, how impacted are you by this COVID-19 disruption? And this result is what we expected, that most people are extremely impacted. I will note that the respondents of this survey we were pretty pleased with with how many respondents by industry category there were. So there was a pretty decent spread as far as, it wasn't just all food services that answered the survey. There are a few that were a little bit higher, but we had at least a good response rate from the majority of industries by the 2-digit NAICS code. So I think that that's important because, of course, in certain industries, you're going to have way more impact than in others. But I think that really shows you that, yes, the impact is extreme, but it also shows you that there's a small percentage of people that impact has been positive. Of course, when change happens, there's going to be folks that reap the benefits of that as well. But as one could expect, majority have an extremely negative impact. So this chart gets into what have you had to do with your staff? What has been the result of it? And you can see that quite a few have had to furlough, so put employment on pause. Many have had to lay some off, but I was excited to see that many people think that they might not have to reduce their workforce. And some say they haven't yet, but they may have to. And with the federal programs that are coming into play, this makes me feel like even fewer will have to lay people off, because those programs are really intended to keep people working. And so this was a little bit better picture than I had anticipated, and I think it's important for us to keep tracking, especially as we look at trends with unemployment insurance. And again, this shows kind of the spread, and really shows that, this hasn't been every single business laying 50% off, which is in some of our minds, we think this is, the catastrophic nature of this to our economy, put our economy at a grinding halt. Well, hey, that's not totally been the case, because there's been a really big spread as far as what percentage of people have been laid off. It's not just everyone's no longer has a job. So I included this chart just because I liked how spread out, like the dispersion, I can't say that, of the percent of how many people have had to be reduce their workforce is pretty spread out. So these two charts, I think, are critical in understanding how we move forward from a policy perspective. And these two data points were included in the Yellowstone County's Response and Recovery Group's request to the governor for consideration of how we deploy those federal funds that the state of Montana received. So we included both of these charts because I think they're really critical. The first one that shows that 34% of businesses reported to us that they need between $0 to $50,000 to weather the COVID disruption storm, is really encouraging to me, because it says that, we don't need millions for each business. We need, businesses need help. They need assistance, and quickly in this interim period, but that's up to $50,000. So the ability and accessibility of us to find the resources to keep those businesses going is more attainable than if all of them have reported 500,000 plus. And so this has really helped us direct policy to the governor to say, hey, we think that, grants of around $25,000 could be dramatically impactful to a lot of businesses in our community. The second one shows the expected duration of impact. So when we look at this, I don't think this is surprising. I think a lot of us think this will be, the impacts will continue. It's encouraging that about a quarter of people think it'll just be 6 months. And then there's a good chunk that think it'll be a year plus. But I also like the fact that there's, that group holding on around 2 and 3 months. So they think, once things open up, business will get back to normal. And so it is kind of an interesting curve to it, as far as, it's not just everyone thinking that it's going to take a year plus. And so both of those things I think are important. And that's a good consideration to say, how long do these resources need to support businesses? Because a lot of the programs from the federal side are supporting people for 8 weeks. Well, 8 weeks doesn't get us past what most businesses see as the impact of their business. And so it's thinking about how do we deploy programs and efforts that get people over that 6-month hump. It's not just in the next 8 weeks. So this is my favorite slide. When we were putting this survey together and I was adding this question to it, it kind of gives you like a sinking gut feeling to add the question of, will your business be permanently closed due to COVID-19? And so this is the one that I found most uplifting, and that is that of the 606 businesses who answered this question, only 3 said that their business has or will permanently close due to COVID-19. And so that's really encouraging. And especially when you look at people that are somewhat confident, very confident, and extremely confident that their business will survive, this gives us a really strong indication that maybe the duration of this won't last as long. And also that, the idea that all these businesses will shutter isn't the reality, or at least business owners don't perceive it as being reality today. A couple other points that I wanted to touch on while we have the happy slide up is that we did ask folks about revenue as well. So how much revenue do you anticipate losing? And 70% reported that they've already lost 25% of their revenue, either realized or forecasted loss in revenue. And an additional 36% said that they have realized or expect to lose 75% of their revenue. So we've got a big revenue gap to recover from as a community and for those businesses. Also, it was interesting to note that 71% of the businesses who responded have applied for funding to support their business and the survival of their business, of which about 59% have received funding support. So that's a good chunk. I wish it was higher, and hopefully in the coming weeks with the expansion of the PPP that's occurring, that will be larger. And so those were just some of the key highlights. Of course, we'll be putting out a full analysis of all the questions that we asked. We did ask over 25 questions, and they really provide us some rich data on how we move forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to Karen to provide us a status update on unemployment and how that's trending in the community.
All right, thanks, Allison. Okay, so again, the data that this comes from is all on the Department of Labor and Industry's website, and they've done a fantastic job of keeping this updated. They update it, most of it every Thursday at 10 a.m. So use that site as a really great updated reoccurring data point. So real quick, this is showing from February 1st of this year to April 22nd. This is the Montana unemployment claims, and these bars represent everything of a claim. So a new file claim all the way to a redetermination or a reactivation. So this is every sort of unemployment insurance claim that our population in the state is working through, as well as payment requests. So you can see February 1st, you can see that nice, pretty consistent pattern that happens. So obviously they're going to spike at the beginning of the week, and then obviously to our current status, first spike, right around the middle end to March, and then currently where we're at. You see that big spike April 19th, and now we're starting to dip down a little bit, but again, this pattern will reoccur. So we should see another spike at the beginning of next week as well. Okay, so this again is statewide. So this is tracking the number of initial unemployment claims, so new claims that are being filed. So this is going back to 2016. Obviously, you look at 2020. Right now, where we're at, we've had 13,668 initial claims for this most current week, so the week ending in April 18th. Right here at the peak, that peak, we were at 26,457. Again, so those are initial claims for the whole state of Montana. Okay, then we expect this to be going up as far as continued unemployment insurance claims. So again, you can see that nice consistent pattern from 2016 to 2019, and then again in our current state, a huge spike for where we're at with COVID-19. And again, 66,175 continued claims for the most recent filing week, so April 18th. So this is our current status for unemployment continuing claims. All right, so let's go to Yellowstone County. Yellowstone County, you can see it's highlighted there. Again, following similar patterns from 2016. Again, a big peak right here, and that was the week ending of April 18th. And that peak for initial claims, that peak was 3,719 at the week ending on April 18th. And again, now you can see that we've dropped down again. So it's nice to see that we're dropping down, but again, these are initial claims being set. So Yellowstone County, as far as continuing claims, so again, not surprising that was a big spike there of 2020. So right under 10,000 initial claims being set for that. In fact, it's 9,991 to be exact as far as continuing claims for Yellowstone County unemployment insurance. Okay, so how does this look differently over a year? So right here, year to date, March 2020, 4,594 initial claims, Yellowstone County. Compared to last year, we have increased those numbers of initial claims for Yellowstone County by 653.5%. So you can see that here, if we return back initial claims for Yellowstone County, we'll just compare that to Gallatin County, that was at 3,959. But as you can see, our increased percentage, while still pretty astronomically high, we are lower than Gallatin County as far as, Gallatin County being our hotspot for Montana. I was on the phone yesterday with Ryan Van Bee, who is our Executive Director of Job Service, and he said they are still receiving about 900 calls a day as it pertains to unemployment insurance. Where's their payment? Also, how do I process this? So still a lot of people working to get unemployment insurance right now in the city and in our local area. Okay, so another thing that we pay attention to are layoff events. So oftentimes businesses report layoff events to the Department of Labor and Industry. So again, this is statewide. So now keep in mind this is a guesstimate because not every business has to inform Department of Labor and Industry that they are laying off workers or that they're doing layoff events. But again, you can see a huge spike May or at the end of April 2020. So right here, right, this orange is the number of businesses doing layoff events, and then number of workers affected. So you can see, you know, we're over 250 layoff events for the state, and we are, you know, right around 5,000 workers being affected by that. Okay, now this takes that timeline and basically just shrinks it down so we can really pay attention to the COVID-19 impact timeline. So this is starting March 8th, going to the end of March, early April-ish. And so again, you can see the number of business layoff events spiking, as well as number of workers affected specifically to this situation we're in. Okay, so this is actually looking at daily job postings. So we pay attention to uninsurance employment claims, continuing claims. We pay attention to business layoffs, those events that are taking place, but we also look at the number of jobs that are being posted, because what we are paying attention to is who is still hiring, where their hiring freezes as far as workers go during this time. So that light blue line, that's our state of Montana. That dark blue line, that's our Yellowstone County. And then that mustardy yellow-orange line, that's the United States. So this is a great comparison that you can see kind of where our county lies between Montana and the United States. So again, you know, kind of wrapping around each other from the beginning of March now to the end of March, we are posting less jobs than the state of Montana right here, but we're doing better than the whole United States, which was at that point down 18% as far as job postings go. Okay, now here's looking at the state of Montana. So these are new jobs added each week, postings for work. And as you can see, beginning of January, we had, you know, roughly 3,000 jobs added each week. And then you go down to now, you know, we're under 1,000 new jobs posting. Again, this is for all occupations and across the state of Montana. Okay, I really liked this data point because this looked at who is kind of still hiring. So the top 20 occupations that are still posting positions, again, across the state of Montana. So general farm workers, they are the #1. And if you go down, nursing instructors and teachers, post-secondary education, that is on the 20th level. So this is just looking at who's still hiring. So kind of nice for us to see. So as we work to build programs for displaced workers, we want to inform them of industries, occupations that are still hiring so that we could target some retraining programs in those areas. So agriculture, of course, cashiers, now that's probably most likely going to be in grocery stores, right? So our essential food needs, and then retail salespeople, again, in those essential areas. Construction laborers, we have seen that construction is still up and running. In fact, there is a crew on top of my house right now redoing my roof. So looking at kind of some of those areas for how we can kind of shift some displaced workers around. Okay, here is some slightly uplifting news. So this is looking in our state, where are the jobs? Now, this can be misleading because of course Yellowstone County is going to have the top number of jobs, but that's because we have the highest population, right? So currently they're saying Yellowstone County has 1,439 jobs right now that are posted. So, and that again, that's in all occupations. So what we would like to do is take that and actually break it down just like they did for the state for our county, so we can figure out where those occupations are as far as industry goes, so we can inform our education partners, specifically apprenticeships, 2-year certifications on that information, so we can build programs for retraining those displaced workers. Okay, so that is a really, really quick update for unemployment as far as the workforce goes and the impact of COVID-19. Do know that we are working hard to get more information and updated information so that we can respond and support our economy with being data driven and with good intention. So with that, Allison, do you have any last words? Oh, you're muted, buddy.
Oh yeah. Thanks, and we look forward to getting the full kind of summary of the business survey out. And thank you to those of you who took it. We really appreciate the quick response of our community to that survey and help inform what we wanted to see out of the governor's team for programs to support businesses in our community.
Okay, we'll give you one big view of our faces for the end. Thank you both so much. Allison and I will continue to update you all through these presentations as we get more information coming in so that we can stay well informed during this time. And I know I can speak for Allison when I say we hope that you are all being safe and taking care of your loved ones right now, and that you have hopefully some plans to get outside and finally soak up some of our springtime sunshine for Montana. So thank you.